So the NCAA finally just brought the alleged hammer down on Michigan. It's a very expensive slap on the wrist, but they don't have to give up a championship and they don't have a postseason ban. So kids, cheaters do prosper.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Friday and shout out to the everydayers. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. He is Kenton Gibbs, former NC State defensive lineman and co-host of Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit FanDuel's app today and start planning your futures bets right now. On this loaded episode, if you were hoping, because they promised this to us, if you're hoping for a college football red zone channel, not so fast, my friends. We'll tell you who may block this deal from going through. Florida State has flipped a big-time recruit. He's a really good player, but still 4 months left until National Signing Day, and this young man has flipped already more times than we can count. But Kent, let's start with Michigan, and I know this isn't directly an ACC story, but there are ACC angles we can take from this. So the NCAA has finally levied their punishment to Michigan for the Connor Stallion sign stealing scandal from a couple of years ago. According to ESPN, series of fines could eclipse $30 million, but Michigan avoided punitive penalties such as a postseason ban or the vacating of victories, including during the 2023 national championship season, as the NCAA Division I Committee on Infractions ruled on the Wolverines' advanced scouting case on Friday. Now, a lot of folks, I mean, if Michigan's fans, you probably will find this episode say, well, first of all, you guys don't know, you're talking out your you-know-whats. This was a witch hunt. This wasn't as serious as you thought. Let me give you a fact, according to Brandon Marcello of CBS Sports. According to the NCAA, they said they had sufficient grounds to levy a multi-year postseason ban. It says, however, the panel determined that a postseason ban would unfairly penalize student athletes for the actions of coaches and staff who are no longer associated with the Michigan football program. So the NCAA doesn't think it was a witch hunt, but they decided unfair to the players who are there now to punish them for a couple of years ago. And I can get on board with that, Kenton. The problem is that's not how the NCAA used to operate.
See, and I'm glad that you said that, because this is not about, what's fair and what's not, because in terms of what's fair and what's not, you're absolutely right, Donno. There have been, it's never right to punish a university or a team if everybody who did it is gone now. It would be different if Harbaugh was still there, if Connor Stallions was still on the staff and all that. It would be very different. However, they're gone. They're gone. So I appreciate the fairness in saying, hey, we're not going to punish these players who had nothing to do with that, because with all due respect, these players don't. The players that are there now, they weren't a part of or beneficiaries of sign stealing. So with that in mind, I then go to what you just alluded to. The NCAA has not always operated that way. Since when does the NCAA care about punishing the right group of people instead of, wait a minute, helmet looks the same. Yeah, it's still them. Get them, boys. Like that's how I knew it for decades, for however long. And there were things that didn't have anything to do with on the field performance. And I mean stuff, there were things, obviously, for players getting paid or for players receiving improper benefits. Yes, the reduction of stress from having to worry about where your next meal is coming from or those types of things, that absolutely gives you a benefit over an opponent who is worrying, oh man, I got to go in to work this little job in the student center or whatever the case may be to make some money to eat. That is an advantage. But I'm talking about stuff that was purely off the field, stuff that did not involve any single player on the team, and I've seen the hammer come down worse than this.
Yeah.
So you asked, do cheaters win? Well, I don't know, Donno. Is there an asterisk next to the Spygate ring? Is there an asterisk next to the Deflategate ring? As a Dolphins guy, you saw it up close and personal. And everybody talked about for years how, hey, whenever you go play in Foxborough, you know that your communication systems aren't going to work. So y'all have to practice on relaying the calls in, getting people to run to the sideline. And does anybody say, that Bill Belichick guy was good, but all of these strange occurrences used to happen whenever you went to Foxborough, so it doesn't count? No. People say, hey, he's got more rings than everybody else. That's just what it is. Nobody ever cares if you cheated or not. The Denver Broncos, during their Super Bowl runs with John Elway and Terrell Davis and company, had multiple moments where they had infractions that they were penalized for. And then the NCAA, how many teams have we seen win national championships that we then looked at in years later and were like, oh my God, everybody was getting paid. Oh my God, these boys were cheating their tails off. We still, that's the Heisman winner. That's the national champion. So if you're asking, does cheating pay? Yes. Yes, it does. If you can get away with it, if you can do it in a way that you don't get caught until afterwards, when it's already in the record books, this is objectively proving that.
Because look at their punishment. So, and there's a little bit more to it than what I read, because there is going to be a suspension for Sharon Moore, their head coach. They actually, Michigan self-imposed week 3 and week 4 of this season, and the NCAA tacked on one more. So he's going to have to not be on the sidelines for the first game of 2026. So he gets a 3-game suspension. So, fines that are going to be somewhere between 20 to 30 million, and your head coach gets suspended 3 games. But if you were to ask any Michigan fan, is it worth $30 million, which is not your money, by the way, is it worth $30 million of your program's money and your head coach getting suspended 3 games to win a national freaking championship that they will not take away from you? The answer is absolutely yes. So, and listen, again, I know Michigan fans will say, hey, that team would have won the championship anyway. You're putting way too much value on the sign stealing. Okay, if you know that for sure, why bother to cheat? If you're going to go through all that trouble to steal the signs, to have this organized ring of cheating, why go through all the trouble if you know for sure you're winning the championship anyway? So that's how I would turn that around.
I don't care to turn it around any kind of way in terms of, what does cheating mean or who gets what from cheating? It happened, period. It happened. What cannot be argued. And I understand the argument of everybody stealing signs. They just took it to another level. I understand that. That's fine with me. You took it to a level that was outside the rules, period. Period. That's what the evidence determined. That's what it determined. Teams have nutritionists. I am sure that the level of nutrition that is provided for Miami is very different from the level of nutrition that is provided for Edward Waters University. I'm sure. So that's legal. You know what's not legal? Providing your players with trim, providing your players with testosterone replacement. To say, this is just a supplement. It's no different than any other stuff. No, some things are within the rules. Some things are outside the rules. Now, if the rules can the rules change one day to say, hey, you can do advanced scouting and all that? Sure, they might. But as it stood right then, you were cheating, just like we talked about with SMU. They were doing NIL before NIL was legal. But guess what? At that time, when they got the death penalty, was it legal? No. What Michigan was doing at the time that they were doing it was illegal. Point blank, period. I don't care for all the arguments of everybody does it or, it's not that big of a deal. We would have won anyway. At the end of the day, it happened. Now, in terms of do I care what the penalty is or should the penalty have been more severe, whatever the case may be, from my perspective there, I look at it like this. If you're not going to vacate wins, stop with all this foolishness. If you're not going to vacate a championship, stop with all this foolishness. What is $20 million to one of the richest universities in the world?
It's a drop in the bucket.
What is Sharon Moore not being on the sideline when, let's be honest, he was an interim coach who received a full-time tag? What is him not being on the sideline for 3 games?
So not to mention 3 weeks break. He gets to probably sit up in a box somewhere and text his assistant coaches.
Not to mention, Donno, those 3 games, I'm pretty sure the 3 games that they picked, none of them are against top teams. So what are we actually doing here in terms of this punishment? To me, I'm fine with saying, hey, this didn't reach the level of a very severe punishment, so we're just going to kind of, I mean, objectively speaking, we kind of got to let it go. But don't put out a statement saying that it reached the level for us to vacate wins and vacate championships.
Yeah.
But we're not going to do that for the sake of fairness. Either you do it or you don't. But don't tell me I would. It's like that one guy that you go to the club with, Donno, that one friend that's always talking about, oh, I would have knocked him out. If somebody looked at me like that, oh, I would have knocked him out. Oh, you should have told me that guy bumped you, Donno. I would have put him clean on his behind. Well, coulda, woulda, shouldas, and if ifs were fifths, Donno and I would be drunk. But here we sitting sober, talking to you about what cheating scandals did or did not mean.
Well, coming up next, we'll talk about what this means for the NCAA, because it sends me a very clear sign. Also talk about a big-time recruit that Florida State has landed. See if they hold on to him this time. If they can, tremendous player. You want to keep it locked right here? We're only getting started on this brand new episode of Locked On ACC. My friends, as summer winds down, something nice about getting back into a routine that you love. And Wayfair makes it easy to set yourself up for the season ahead. From bedding and linens to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair is your one-stop shop to refresh your home. Folks, I love working with Wayfair because their delivery is fast and free, even for the big stuff. It's so convenient. My wife and I love this, to find exactly what we need all in one place and at one price to fit our budget. This is the perfect time to get your homes ready, whether that's organizing, upgrading your workspace, or making weeknight dinners easier. Get organized, refreshed, and back to the routine for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen. For your next listen, check out our other shows. Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone host Locked On Wolfpack, taking you through all things NC State. I host Locked On Canes, taking you through all things Miami. And all right, so, Kenton, again, it's the NCAA has clearly evolved when it comes to enforcement. They do not have the sort of teeth that they used to have. You referenced SMU a few decades ago, 4 decades ago now, getting the death penalty.
Yep.
Less than that, about 2 decades ago, 2004, or after that, USC had to vacate a BCS title, right? They had to vacate wins and championships. At one point, this is, kind of lesser compared to those, but obviously I cover Miami. And the reason why Miami has only played in 1 ACC championship game and not 2 is because they were under a postseason ban, which included ACC championship game back in, I think it was 2012, something like that. So the NCAA used to not have this motto of, hey, we really shouldn't punish the kids that are here now for what, the previous administration did. That's something new. Now, I will tell you, inconsistency aside, I don't actually mind it, Kenton, because, again, I do understand the logic of, hey, Bryce Underwood is just out of high school. Why are you punishing him for what the former head coach, and by the way, Jim Harbaugh has like an 8-year college ban now. I don't think he cares. He's in the NFL. And Connor Stallions has a 10-year show cause ban for working for a college program. But they're not going to punish Bryce Underwood for what people did, 2 years before he ever stepped foot on Michigan's campus. And so this clearly shows you the new trend. The NCAA has much less power and much less ammunition for witch hunts or even legitimate penalties the way that they used to decade, 2 decade, 3 decades ago.
I disagree. This isn't about the NCAA not having teeth. The NCAA has always played favorites. The NCAA has always made sure that its cash cows are protected and taken care of. Let's be honest. Right. SMU did not get the death penalty because they were paying people. They got the death penalty because they weren't supposed to be winning. They're
an easier target. It's easier to give SMU the death penalty than Ohio State.
Exactly. It's easier to have that type of situation than a Michigan per se.
Right.
If you give Michigan a death penalty, a lot of people are arguing, well, the Michigan was terrible for years, or not terrible, but Michigan wasn't that good for years. They were middling for years, and the viewership of the Big Ten was fine. No, it wasn't. Objectively speaking, the viewership of the Big Ten skyrocketed when Michigan got good again. So it's an objective fact that this is one of the biggest brands in the game, in the sport, in the conference, you're not going to play around with that. You're not going to sit up here and play around and say, oh, we could potentially take that away, which the NCAA has always done. Remember, before the transfer portal, all of these quarterbacks that were transferring out were getting waivers and vouchers to play right away. And meanwhile, players who had legitimate, hey, I'm going back to Illinois because my grandmother is sick and I grew up with my grandma. She raised me and I want to go to a place where she can see me play. Oh, tough titty said the kitty when the milk went dry. Meanwhile, Justin Fields, a Georgia native, was able to transfer from Georgia to Ohio State without a coaching change, without a position coaching change, without anything that would warrant a transfer and get a waiver right away. So objectively, when I look at this, I don't see this as the NCAA losing power. What I instead see this as is the NCAA doing what they've always done. They go after certain schools. Oh, Jim Valvano has players who are selling their own shoes. They're selling their own gear. NC State needs to be hit with the biggest fines there can be. Wait, UNC has a decades-long academic scandal going on? Well, there were regular students who benefited, so we can't punish the athletes. It's what the NCAA has done for forever, and protecting Michigan, the winningest football program in all of the sport. Objectively speaking, that's not me saying that they're the winningest. They are the winningest. Them protecting them makes perfect sense with the NCAA's track record. Now, if they did this for Arkansas State, then I would say, oh, this is a little different. What them Red Wolves down in Jonesboro do to get this type of treatment?
Now, it's funny because just using social media as my barometer, the people who are angriest about this are Ohio State fans, right? Because they wanted to see their hated rival just get, completely shredded. But I will remind Ohio State fans, believe me, the NCAA would do the same thing for you. If you ever find yourself in that situation, they will give you the same sort of lenient treatment. Do not worry about that. So this is, and by the way, the way that I framed this earlier, I don't mean it. I know people look at me like, oh, of course, the Miami guys trash talking Florida State again. I don't mean it this way. Okay, so Florida State, Kenton, today, Friday, has just landed a flip for one of the best class of 2026 recruits in the entire country. Izayiah Williams out of Tavares, Florida, is the third rated linebacker in the entire class, according to the 24/7 composite. Like, this is a game changer, borderline program changer type of player, high-level 4-star, borderline 5-star. The reason why I say, let's see if he sticks. So Izayiah Williams, Kenton, he's already been committed before to Florida State, and get a load of Izayiah Williams's commitment timeline. And we're still 4 months away from National Signing Day, mind you. Izayiah Williams has been committed to Louisville, decommitted from Louisville, committed to Syracuse. Decommitted from Syracuse, committed to Florida State, decommitted from Florida State to commit to their rival Florida, decommitted from Florida to commit to Ole Miss. Now he flips from Ole Miss to Florida State. So he has been committed to 6 different schools. Well, I guess 5 different schools. One of them he's been committed to twice. So this is like musical chairs, Kenton, that, getting the commitment from Izayiah Williams in August may not count for a whole lot. Whoever is left standing on National Signing Day, December 21st, is the one who wins the prize.
Donno, I hear you. But what if I told you there was a running back from Miami, or rather, a running back from Miami who, in his recruitment, he was committed to Clemson and then flipped to Florida and then ended up signing with Florida State and then went on to become an All-American and then went on to become an All-Pro in the NFL and a multiple-time Pro Bowler. Would you believe me?
I feel like I should know who this is, but I hope you tell me, because I'm sure it's who are we talking about here?
A young man by the name of Dvin Cook.
Okay? Oh, yeah, he was pretty good.
And here's the deal. And here's the deal. I myself was originally committed to the University of Illinois before the defensive line coaches. I played with the defensive line coach's grandkids at Cass Tech. And the defensive line coach's grandkids told me he's leaving. He's going elsewhere. So, I don't think you want to be there, because I love that coach. I wanted to be there because of him. And I decommitted, and then I didn't commit anywhere else again until I got to NC State. So
well,
I
hold
don't
on,
want
though.
to be the pop.
You decommitted one time. You didn't decommit
And
5
here's
times.
the deal. Here's the deal. And I was just about to say, I don't want to be the pot called the kettle black. So I do want to acknowledge that to the fans.
Okay.
I do want to acknowledge that.
Fair enough.
But now, with that being said, this is a little worrisome. This is a little bit worrisome. Don't get me wrong. The fact that he was able to decommit 5 times and still have big time offers, because let's be honest, these coaches see this the same way we do. The coaches see guys when they jump in, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I'm committing here, I'm committing there. I want to play here, I want to play there. I need NIL here, I got more NIL there. Whatever the case may be, right? Whatever it is that has him committing and decommitting so often, the coaches see that. But he is at a level of talent that has these coaches saying, I could give a rat's behind if he commit to Sally Jane hair school. I could care less if he commits to Lackawanna Blues Community College. I don't care. If we have a chance to get him on this campus, that offer is going to stand. He's a phenomenal player. And I'm going to tell you, this is a rocky start, regardless of where he lands. This is going to be a rocky start, but it's not about how you start. It's about how you finish. If he has a rocky start in terms of his career with all of these commitments and decommitments, and then he goes on to become a multiple-time All-American, do you think anybody's going to care?
No, but also though, don't forget about the transfer portal. So he might end up playing for 4 different schools at the end of the day.
But guess what? If he's a freshman All-American, and then he says, "I'm gonna transfer for some more NIL," do you think the teams are going to be like, "I don't want him"? 5 decommitments, and he's in the transfer portal. Absolutely not. Teams will be with their money out like Fry and Futurama. Shut up and take my money. That's what they'll be saying. So again, to me, it's only a big story because he's still in high school and he's still doing all the committing and decommitting and all that. Brian Smith is the guy who follows all the recruiting very closely. I follow recruiting somewhat, but I don't follow it too closely because of stuff like this. 17 and 18-year-olds, you never know why they're changing their minds or who's pulling the strings behind closed doors, or in my situation, what's going on at the university that we don't know about, right? There's all these different factors that go into committing and decommitting, but 5 times does seem a little egregious. It does. It does seem like, what's going on here? You know, there's like everything in life functions on a bell curve where it's like, you know, there's not enough. Okay, now we're at a good point. All right, you're tipping over the bell curve now. Too much. Stop. And 5 feels like that point. I hope that he can silence the noise and say, you know what? This is where I need to be. This is what I need to do. And that's that on that.
Coming up next, why is big bad Fox Sports standing in our way of a college football red zone? You want to keep it locked right here on Locked On ACC. Oh, folks, I already know you're keeping it locked to FanDuel. Guys, August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day. It's a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, August 26th, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, I keep going back and forth between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I'm going to lock in one of those on August 26th. If you're eyeing a long shot division winner or you're ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment, right? I mean, Philadelphia Eagles are favored to repeat, or if you think Kansas City is going to bounce back, guys, lock in your Super Bowl champion in August on August 26th. Visit the FanDuel app today to start planning your futures bets right now, because Futures Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen. He's Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Donno from Locked On Canes. All right, so you got this big mega deal coming up, ESPN and the NFL, which is going to move the NFL Red Zone channel to ESPN. And Roger Goodell even teased a college football Red Zone channel on ESPN. But according to a report from Front Office Sports, Fox Sports could be a significant hurdle in the race to produce a college red zone offering. Fox carries the big noon game of the week in the Big Ten, as well as other conference offerings for both the Big Ten and the Big 12. And Front Office reports that Fox is unlikely to license its Big Ten or Big 12 games to ESPN, for fear of cannibalizing its own viewership. Quote, Fox would require significant ownership in the venture to have any willingness to participate. And so what folks need to remember, Kenton, is even though you watch your NFL games on Sundays and Mondays, and yeah, you're seeing those NFL games on multiple different networks, CBS, Fox, ESPN, but the difference is the NFL owns the broadcast rights to all of those games. So they can consolidate those into one red zone channel. We don't have TV deals like that in college football. So I can understand it. Like, why would Fox, without significant financial taste in this, why would Fox just allow their games, portions of them to go on ESPN and, like they said, cannibalize their own viewership? That's a huge obstacle here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And like you said, you talked about, the NCAA doesn't have TV deals like the NFL. Well, no, that's in fact the problem. They have too many TV deals. The NFL has a singular TV deal to say, hey, we can distribute all of your broadcasts. Anybody's broadcast that we want to pick and choose, we can distribute it how we want it, where we want it. What you going to do about it? What? You're under us. The NCAA has no such thing. The Big Ten has their TV deal. ACC has their TV deal. SEC has their TV deal. The Pac-2 or the soon-to-be Pac-12 again has theirs. The Big 12 has theirs. So it's all these different mechanics with all these different players to where it's like, hey, we're going to give up our audience just for the fans' happiness? Donno, do you hear yourself? Fan happiness over me getting my 12th yacht? Right. You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind. I'm never doing that. Fox Sports and the Murdoch family, you think that they're going to give up? Yeah, okay. I remember watching a show where a gentleman said, clap in one hand and defecate, wish in one hand and defecate in the other, and we'll see which one fills up first. Because that's where we are here. Okay. What a great thing. You can wish all day that the Big Ten will relinquish their power and that Fox will relinquish their power and say, you know what, a red zone for college football would be great. But the reality is, if you want that, set up them multiple screens like we've been doing for years. Go on down to your local bar and say hi to the bartender and, get you a couple little brews or whatever. However you do it, you cannot get all of these games in one singular place because there's too much money to be made with them being separate.
I mean, the closest that I get to, like on YouTube TV, they do like the quad screen where it does, you select whichever 4 games you want, but it doesn't do the red zone editing where they only put it on the screen when they're in the red zone, which I freaking love it, Kenton. Like when it comes to NFL Sundays, there's nothing better from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. to put on that red zone, kick my feet up, watch all the scoring opportunities. So, I mean, even if college gives us a taste of that, where if like we just get it from the ESPN properties, like that's better than nothing in my eyes. But obviously, you want to have the biggest Big 10 and Big 12 games a part of that too. We may be a ways away from that, but you know what? Maybe if ESPN does it with their properties, it gets so popular. Maybe Fox will say, "Hey, we feel kind of left out. Maybe we're more inclined to cut a deal."
Absolutely. And that way you can take it down from 4 to 5 screens like we used to do back in the day to just 1 or 2. Yeah. You got your SEC, ACC screen over here. You got your Big 12, Big 10 screen over here. You put on red zone on both of them and you just sit there. Oh, what's going on over there? Oh, what's going on over here? Okay, we got a lot of good ball being played and let that be that.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, we appreciate everyone making Locked On ACC your first listen all week long. Make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. Subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you check out our other shows, Locked On Canes, Locked On Wolfpack. Make sure you check out the portal as well. We mentioned our good pal Brian Smith, who he covers recruiting like no other, and he breaks all of that down on the Portal podcast along with Transfer Portal and NIL. So check that out. And we'll talk to y'all next week on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.